Let's see. Are we actually streaming? Hold on. I need to.
I'm refreshing. I'm going to Masto to boost your post.
How considerate of you.
Yeah, man. I gotta be our hype, man. In the
Why
morning, I
is it
should
playing
just.
this? Like, you're not supposed to be playing stuff. There you go. First of all, this is from World of Long Plays. This is a YouTube channel and forum where people actually record themselves playing computer games, and they just let you use the footage as long as you cite them. But the problem is, not every game has a long play on their website, so sometimes you got to get creative in the footage. I think for Armored Core, I'm just going to record like 2 hours of me playing one night because I can do that because it's on my PC, and then use that footage, and then we'll be in like
Yeah.
the reels at that point instead of the fakes. So, all right,
Smart.
actually, hold
You're
on.
so smart with this sometimes. You do a bunch of little, like, you're good at these little, like, quirks of flavor that really enhance the experience that, like, I just totally just blind to. That's really cool.
Yeah, I know I'm the best, aren't I?
I don't know about the best. I mean, we have 2 people watching, right? But we're really good.
Right.
We're really, really good.
Yeah. So, do you see the stream? I made a banner for you since you never make the fucking banner.
Because I'm not going to compete with your greatness, all right? I don't want
Do you
people to
see the
know
banner?
how bad I am at it. It's great. I love the brain. Is that Miyazaki there? That's who it is. That's
Yeah.
fucking
So let me
awesome. And
explain this.
just, yeah, please go.
Let me explain the banner. At least my thought process behind the banner. You'll notice that this guy, I think his name is what's his name? Takahashi or something like that, right?
Yeah.
No,
Hold on.
he's the writer of
It's Takahashi.
Tetsuya Takahashi or something like that. Is that right? I'm not a Xenosaga fan, so please correct
Yes,
me.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, it is. I didn't double
Tetsuya
check. I didn't double check.
Takahashi. Yeah. So you'll notice that he's in the foreground in this picture. He's actually in front of where it says Xenosaga. He's blocking the A and the part 2. He's also blocking out Cosmos. He's the forefront of this, and he's got a really big brain. That's because That's because I feel like he takes center stage when people talk about this game. Like, this guy's a genius. I think this guy might have an inflated ego, probably like myself. So he probably thinks he's more important than the games, and maybe not. Maybe that's a bad judgment call, but that's why that exists. That's why the big brain is there, and he's like so smart with all the philosophy stuff. So I'll take away the banner. I'll take away the please wait. The only other flair I added here, since we don't have any media that we're shamelessly copyright stealing from, is this picture of David Bowie and Ziggy, and then it switches to your insightful post, which is Wilhelm and Nietzsche. So these are the two comparisons, great, yeah. Right? And that'll just keep going for the whole thing.
That's awesome, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a nice little touch. I guess we can get into it. So, I want to start with the gameplay, and I'm going to ask you. This is about your article right here, which is called Infinite Promise, Xenosaga 2 and Eminence, and Introduction, Codename, Infinite Promise. So, this is your second article on Xenosaga, second article for the website. And I figured we could start with the gameplay first, because as people say all the time, you need to start with the good stuff, and people are here for the game, for the gameplay, right? For what is the game about? Why are we talking about this game? What is it about? If I wanted to play this game, should I play the game? I don't think anybody actually watches it for that reason, but we'll start with that. The first question I have for you is, okay, in your article you wrote, at some point, you wrote that when it comes to Xenosaga 2, the player is always either 1, watching movies, or killing mobs. Why? Why do you say this? And can you give me an example of both of these things? Or why you felt the need to point these things out?
Yeah, and this can be a really cool temporal answer. Like, we have the game in front of us. Like, right now we're doing part 1. We're watching movies. I got it.
Yeah, we are.
And then pretty soon you're gonna see chaos. I love how this is coming back. I'm gonna the audience of 1 right now. You're gonna have to forgive me because have forgotten a lot about this game. But immediately takes place in the past, and chaos, and Canaan. I might forget characters' names. I'm gonna look really bad tonight. That's Canaan there. They're gonna get into one of the Aegises. I think they have a different name in this one. And I'll look that up. And they're gonna fight mobs. And so that's the game. Like I think there's some puzzles in some of the dungeons, but they're not. They're mostly like the challenge of the dungeon puzzles comes from the mobs that you have to kill while you're doing it, right?
Oh,
So
right.
the game essentially it's movies and mobs, and that's not bad. That's a lot of good games. Um, but that's the gameplay. I do not remember a like casino. Like Xenosaga 1 did have a casino. I'm gonna get out the book because I think I have it. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And I
Get
can
the
look
book.
through this idly. It's gonna get brought up, of course. I've seen the questions, but like,
You've been
I did
prepped.
buy the book. I have been prepped, but I did no research, and it might come through poor tonight. So my apologies. But
That's right.
they're called Amuses in this game. It was the AMWS instead of the Aegis like they were
I
in
like that
Xenosaga
picture there.
1.
You use that in the you use that in your article, a picture of that with the mech standing in the
Yeah,
helicopter thing, and then the splash screen comes up. It says Xenosaga 2. Looks cool.
yeah. It's pretty
Immediately, it
cool.
looks way cooler from the cinematic standpoint than Xenosaga 1.
Look at this. Look at it. Everyone look at. Well, it's past now probably, but we just passed on the stream. Where it opened up like to the
Mm-hmm.
sunshine. Like it was so beautiful. That scene. It comes up later in the pictures. I just saw it. It was super cool. So they're about
Mm-hmm.
to start mobs pretty quickly. But that's the gameplay. There's some pretty cool upgrade systems. I think the paths that you can take the characters on. I have to look at the pictures because all three games had vastly different character upgrade systems, and like two's might have been kind of forgettable. The game was shorter, like 30 hours maybe, compared to the 40 to 60 ish I did with the other two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I probably did like 35 to 45 with the family though, because I play slow and it was kind of difficult for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, any questions on that? I can dive in deeper because it's kind of a big game, but I just can't. There was some sort of like side game, and I know I didn't do. There's bonus dungeons, right? Like I did not 100% it. I know it had like some quote unquote like super mob,
Mm-hmm.
like emerald weapon type stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I did not do that, right? So there is some extra
Shame on you.
stuff outside of that, but
How could you
generally that
write an
was the game.
article on a game on a computer game that you haven't even beaten 100%? I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Screw that.
as
Who cares?
as no, I can answer it in jest, right? Like in
Mm-hmm.
jest, because some people might ask that, right? Even if you're being funny, like some people are like are
Yeah, some people are like
IRL
that
like
for
that.
real.
So to
Those
that
people are
person
insufferable.
watching, like I do talk about like real and symbolic final bosses. Like there's probably a category called like super bosses, and if you watching value that opinion, then maybe throw mine away. Not everyone has to like my opinion.
Yeah.
I played the game and I talk about the story a lot. I think more than the gameplay, and the gameplay, a lot of it is kind of it's kind of aggressive, and it's kind of off-putting at times. It's really hard to wade through to like put it together. Some of these battles are like 29 minutes if you don't understand the intricacies of the systems. Like
Yeah.
it's all
You're,
mobs, right? And those mobs are 10 minutes long, all the whole game. If you don't know what you're doing, like me, so and I had to book, right? So
yeah. You
that's
even
like a
had the
ramble. I'm
book.
sorry.
Yeah, you even had the book.
Yeah.
And one thing I do like is that you subtitled this image as Vice City WP, which I really like that. I think that's a good caption. Probably one of the best captions for an image on computer games. I would think. And I would imagine you did that just because of the sunset and just how it looks kind of 80s. So
Yeah. Yeah. It
yeah,
was cool.
so
That's
that's
that
cool.
flavor. I think that came out in the 16 article a little bit more, where I tried to develop like I just that little bit of like I'm gonna go off script and just like if you get this, you get this. If not, just keep scrolling.
Right. Yeah. I like how this is like so much mech stuff is going on. Like I've been really into mechs lately, and all this mech stuff is really cool. I'll go on to my next question, which is so Xenosaga 1 seemed pretty tame, at least from what I saw in regards to combat. It was fairly substandard turn-based combat, if I remember correctly. Maybe there were some gimmicks, but does this game expand on that, or is it just literally the same combat system as the first game?
All right, so um, I might have to I'm gonna talk a little bit about it. Might go back because when it's on screen, it's gonna come back to me probably in full. I didn't quite understand it at first, and like so the battles were really hard towards the end. Like the real final boss, the real final challenge, um, really took some mastery. I think the guy did help in that regard, and so at the very end of the game, when I finally understood what was going on, it was kind of fun. In the beginning, it's just really slow because you can kind of just zerg your way through it, right? You can just dump potions into your dude and just take turns, and like it's kind of feel slow and boring. I just can't. It was like three different types, and I want to say it's like a rock paper scissors type deal. I think they're about to go into combat, but it is
I
different in the
switched it
aim.
to combat. Yeah.
Okay. And like I think you can get like bonus turns if you do what the person's weak to. But
Like
it's also like kind
SMG.
of time based. Yes, sort of, but it's not. It's almost like real time. So you got to play. It's not real time, but it's like there's a time limit to getting the characters' turns. Oh, the other enemies can steal turns. That's what it was. So if you're just idle and you're thinking, like the enemy will just be stealing your turns, and like you will just get ass whooped. Like I
Oh,
remember just getting my butt beat with like I remember failing. This game I did die in probably like 4 or 5 game over screens. It's coming back, and like yeah, but once you know every enemy that you're fighting. You know what it's probably like that I didn't play a lot? I bet it's a lot like Resonance of Fate in its difficulty. Like maybe not how it's done,
I
but
didn't play
like
that
I
game.
remember that game's combat being challenging because I just didn't take the time to sit down and learn to play it. Once we see some on foot battles, I think it'll more come out what I'm talking about. But
One
yeah,
of
because you boost to like get more turns and you have to
so
do the right
sorry to
attacks to
interrupt
get
you,
more
but
boost. Anyway, sorry, no, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I mean just on the screen just now, the robot walking around in the overworld before it got into a battle
Mm-hmm.
was seemed very janky. I just wanted to throw that out there. It was very.
Uh,
Um,
like right, I'm looking at a little bit of the past right now. I see it. Yeah.
you see him? He's just like, yeah, a little janky. I
It
don't
was
think you
not
can
fun. They
run.
walked slow.
Yeah.
In three, we'll talk about it. Three had I thought the best like robot walking around. Like in three, when you can like press a button to like quote unquote run, but it's just like a hover glide,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes a little like whooshing sound when you do it, and you like hold R1 to do it. It's very satisfying. But I do think in two you're just plunking around. Maybe you could
Yeah,
go
it's a little
fast in this
weird.
first. Doesn't remember how, but I don't. Three was cool. Was the best with the combat. It was still like probably a solid 80 out of 100 game if I was going to score it. But like this one was so
Oof.
slow. Um,
Don't do that.
Worth playing, I think, at least once if you like the story or want to just experience the story once to really understand it.
Yeah.
Um,
So I've
but
been
I
big
probably
into
won't play
mech
this game again.
recently, and I've been thinking about mech, and I think this will come up as we review, or
Mhm.
not review, but talk about more mech games. But there's like two things of mech. There's like real. There's like maybe three. So there's like real mech, which is kind of like Gundam-esque, where the mechs are kind of supposed to be realistic. At least in the first few original Gundams, they're supposed to be kind of realistic. Like, they don't have magical powers, or they're not from the center of the universe or the center of the earth and like dug out with archaeology. But even in Gundam, so like in the original Gundam, you have these big mechs. The only reason you have the mech is to kill other people that have big mechs. So I never understood that. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't you just get out of the mechs? Why do you need to build multi-million-dollar robots to kill each other? But it makes sense in games like this and universes like this because in universes like Xenosaga and Evangelion, for example, which Xenosaga is very influenced by, I think, um, there's big monsters, right? There's huge
Mhm.
monsters. So that makes sense that you would need a big mech to fight a big monster. It doesn't make sense so much that you would need a big mech to fight another dude in a big mech. Like,
Mhm.
at least to me, it doesn't, right? I mean, maybe we're getting off topic, but I don't know.
Well, no, I can take that. I wonder if okay, so one guy builds a mech and the other one's like, to fight him, I have to build a mech. At that
Yeah,
point,
it's
they're
like a
not
nuke
killing the
thing.
mech, right? Yeah, it's like a nuke. I mean, it is a
Yeah,
lot of it is from Japan, dude. Everything's bomb metaphors. Like everything
true,
Japan makes, the printers
true.
and the guitars and the motorcycles are still like they're killing us. We own more motorcycles than anywhere else in the world. They're mostly Japanese made, and it kills so many people every year. It's revenge. It's slow
Oh
revenge, and
yeah, Japanese
um,
motorcycles. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Revenge. I guess that
And no
I guess that
offense
would make sense. Like,
to Jackie.
somebody makes the robot first, and they're like, "I'm going to destroy your city with the robot," and the other person's like, "Damn, I need a robot now," so they build their own
To defend
robot.
my city, yeah.
Um, I just don't see like why you would make it human-like, or why wouldn't you just
Right.
shoot a nuke at them? Be like, I just have a big
That's
weapon.
really cool, right? That's for
Yeah, it's
little
really
boys to
cool. Yeah,
watch, I guess.
I know it's
Right?
a
It's like,
cartoon. It's not a cartoon, but it's an anime.
yeah.
It's like I get it. I'm
It's
just
delivering the
over analyzing it.
metaphor or the yeah. If it was parlayed into real life, we wouldn't have these. That's probably why we don't,
Yeah.
right? Because it would be
We would just
such a
have big
stupid
cannons that shoot the nukes and
yeah,
stuff, which we
or
already have.
nuclear weapons that drones drop, right? Just
Right.
like we're PlayStation controlling glass in these places. Horrible. But yeah, I mean the mechs in this are pretty cool. They're also, spoiler alert, which is the whole thing spoilers. The mechs are like they're in these ones are special. They take two pilots, right? And they can kill like normal humans that aren't like imbued with like the special energy or something. One is like a navigator essentially. They might have another name. It's Chaos in this, and the other one is like or it's the pilot and like the navigator, right? I think Chaos is the pilot. Kanan is a navigator. Kanan is a Realian, by the way. He's an artificial humanoid. Chaos
Nice.
is like best friends with Jesus. Chaos is literally the embodiment of the universe's like chaotic nature. Like that's
Entropy or
revealed here in
something like that.
episode 3. Yeah, he's the entropy to Cosmos's order, right? And then like Cosmos, these Amuses, I believe, that's probably why they have a different name. They have like these anima vessels, and that's from Young, right? I think you used that term in a chat with me recently,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The
I did.
anima and animus.
Yeah.
So the Amos, if I'm remembering correctly, it's they're imbued with these like these spirits that are all like named after disciples of Christ, which is really cool and badass. Which is the only saving grace of these games, right? I do think Takahashi has a really good like flair, to what he does. Um, Even if sometimes it's not fun to play, So that's cool. I
Yeah.
can go on this tangent. We can go to another question. I don't know how we doing. I don't want to
Sure.
ramble. That's
No,
my
no, I think
biggest
this
turn
is
off.
really good. I have another question that's unrelated to the questions that I
Mm-hmm.
sent you, which it seems like at the beginning of this game you start as Chaos, and I haven't seen Cosmos or that Shion girl at all. Is Chaos like the main character of this game, or is he just kind of the main character
Um,
early on, or what?
this chapter's flashback 10 years ago or
Oh,
14
okay.
years ago.
Gotcha.
I believe it's the Milsha conflict. I think. God, I'm gonna have to pull up the Xenosaga wiki probably
The
a little bit
wiki.
because this thing.
The
If you're not
wiki.
playing and reading about this
True.
stuff, since it's non-vital information, it just
True.
like it filters out like very quickly, even though it's super cool. Um, but yeah, you play as Chaos and Kanan, primarily to introduce Kanan. Some people did complain at the time this game was made that it felt more like a short, like kind of side story, more about Chaos.
Uh,
I'll try to remember why that was. Also, no, maybe about Junior as well, because it really finalized. Albedo is the final boss again, but finally the final boss because he really dies for real, except he comes back. But you don't really fight him again, I don't think, in episode 3. You might. Forgive me, anybody, if you do fight him in episode 3, but I don't remember right now. It'll come back.
he's
But
one of
yeah,
the
so
hidden
that's the answer to
bosses that
that.
you didn't fight.
The 3, I do think I 100%ed. I did the
I was just
Kaiser,
kidding.
Omega Kaiser or whatever. But this one, no, I should go back. But it was because I was over it and wanted to move on. I was playing it for like a month and I was tired. I
Yeah.
think I say that into this essay. I'm like, I have played this one. There's a lot of other ones. Like, I'm done.
So the last time we talked and we were watching footage of Xenosaga 1, I had skipped around to a lot of different Let's Play footage, and it was all Shion running around in gray space stations. Uh,
Hmm.
is the setting... I mean, I can tell that the setting's already different from the beginning here with this flashback scene, but is the setting more varied in this game? Do you go to like real planet-looking places with beaches and forests, or is it mostly just cities and
Um,
space stations?
You never get like a lot of the force. I'm trying to think what the I know there was like a kind of a there's like a dream sequence, not a dream. It's I don't remember all the terminology, but there's a part where you go into Momo's like memory, and it's essentially the title card, I'll call it, for
The
this
house.
essay. The house. That's a sequence where like you're and that might make it confuse another sequence, but there's that one where you go to the house where Sakura lived. That's the real She's the daughter of one of the characters. His name's slips my mind. It's a big name, so forgive me, fan base. Uh, but it's the real daughter that died, and Momo's essentially like a recreation. And I guess one of her memories are there, and in the memory, I think Junior was in it. Um, and so you go there. There's a part where you go to like a gas station, and you go through some like kind of modern looking highways, and then through like over a stream. But it wasn't super impressive or anything. And then of course a lot of spaceships. You do go into like it might be like I don't know where it is exactly, but it's where you kill Albedo in the end. It's a weird, kind of crazy place. It's like all red. I think it's like Udu's like realm or something. Uh, and then
Whose
you go to
realm?
some place that's
Sorry.
back and forth. Oh, Udu, dog, yeah, Udu. Have we talked about Udu?
No, who's Udo? Please explain.
I'm gonna. We gotta talk about Udu. Udu is basically he's the Moby Dick for Wilhelm's Captain Ahab. Like if
Mm.
Wilhelm is Captain Ahab, he Wilhelm is the bad guy, but the reason he wants to fuck
Udo
with
is the one that got
everybody,
away.
Udu is like yeah, it's like so Udu is outside of human consciousness. Udu's I'm googling right now. Because I don't want to do the fan base dirty because it is cool, and if I would have did this 5 months ago, this would have been off the dome. Um, it's short for the Unus Mundus Drive operation. It's a wave existence system that is directly connected to the Milton conflict in the Zohar. So essentially, it's outside of the domain that our consciousness like exists on. It's kind of like God. It's something that when Albedo touched it for a moment, he
Oh, he
went
went
insane.
insane. Yeah. Okay, that's yeah. I didn't
I
know.
it's really, I mean, God, I mean, the page, it's just a red aura that's like emanating out. It's like almost untalkaboutable. Udu, I mean, I'm looking at one of these charts, man. I should send you this chart in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about something. Ask me another question, or you talk about something. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
send
send
me
you
the
this. So
chart.
this like is super cool.
So
Yeah.
my other question was, did the graphics improve from 1 to 2? But I think from looking at this footage, I think they have improved significantly from 1 to 2. So I think it's a silly question. I think this game looks a lot better already than
Yeah, my
Xenosaga
images
1.
didn't show it, but like I
Yeah.
thought you would agree. Actually,
Mm.
yeah, I figured you would. And it's just
So,
not as like cartoony, or chibi looking. Like they're
mhm.
just polished a little bit more, and the
Yeah.
colors are a little more muted, and like the characters seem more solid and round. Like it's okay. Look at combat. I'm looking at combat now. I don't know if it's still on with you, but just a few minutes ago, like as other people watch it, I guess, and if you see it and want to stop on it, you'll see like yeah, he's got like you can press triangle, square, circle, or X, but like you gotta know and be like pretty darn quick, or they're just gonna like walk like all over you. So I sent you one chart. I'm about to send you another. I think.
That
Yeah.
seems kind of like Valkyrie Profile, if you ever played that. Valkyrie Profile, you have 4 people in your party, and they each have their own specific button on the controller: X, triangle, circle, or square. And if you hit X, like whoever's assigned to X will attack. Um, Maybe not
Mhm.
exactly like that, but kind of similar. Did you send me?
Yeah. Yeah, two charts. Probably the second one is better if you can
Where
make
did you
that
send it?
big. Discord. Oh, wrong person. Hold on, sorry. I sent it to the dude from work. Yeah, don't
Oh
say any more
no!
about it. I don't want to be weird on like recording.
Oh no!
But he's cool. But he's gonna be like, "What? Why did you send me this?"
Oh no!
So that's one of the charts. That's from an official release, I believe.
An
And, I'm
official
not even
release.
embarrassed that I sent that to somebody, right? I'm not even embarrassed. Like for the stream, what's really cool about this is like I'm not gonna tell you guys what I do for a living, but like I just sent a coworker that I respect like these really insane Xenosaga images, and I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
explain. I just said wrong. I said wrong person. That's all I said. I left it at that. I don't even care.
Voodoo,
He's a nice guy, and I
voodoo.
do respect him. Yeah. So this picture like
Hold on. Let
shows
me pull
that.
it up first. It's just
Okay,
gonna
yeah,
take
you're
a
gonna put it on the
second.
stream.
Yeah,
I gotta make
because
it big so I can remember it.
I'm only sharing Firefox browser windows, so I need to open it up in Firefox. There we go. Now it
Yeah.
should be on the
Or you
screen.
could just search Udu
Oh, I hate this stuff.
for the Udu Wikia,
It's on the screen now. So we have Udo. It's
Okay.
U or hyphen do. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead.
I will explain this and I'll try to be quick. So look at the bottom, the real number domain. Just imagine instead of that phrase, which is crazy, I think what that meant was like the world that you and I experience, right? The phone and going to work and
The
like the
real number
grass and like
domain. Yeah.
colors. That's the real place that we are. So where we come from though is what's above it, that middle kind of rounded thing, that collective unconscious. So what happens is whatever is there like gets pulled out into this real number domain. And it can occur, look at these different things there. There's people like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
There are objects like this book and all kinds of other crazy shit that we've given roles, like this pen is the
Mm-hmm.
writing thing. That comes from the collective bullshit. And there's transfer success. Dimitri is who he's the crazy man that has clones. Junior's a clone of him. I can't talk about it right now because like I don't remember, but that's important. I'm not going to betray the fan base. And then above you have the imaginary number
Mm-hmm.
domain. I can't remember exactly what it was. I'll look it up in a second. But Udu is outside all that shit. Udu is just bigger and incomprehensible. Probably God. Probably where we come from. Maybe. I mean, I guess Jesus was in talks with it. Abel, when it talks about Abel's arc, Abel is a little kid character that looks suspiciously like Faye from Xenogears because Xenosaga is a Xenogears
Mm.
prequel. I'll die on that cross, and so many other people will too. Um, but yeah, so that's my attempt. It's kind of unexplainable. You have to really kind of be reading all the stuff a lot, and then even then, it's like it's Takahashi's understanding of like something of source material that maybe he didn't even understand correctly, or maybe he wasn't even trying to portray, right? Maybe he's just trying to use it to make a cool little fun game that was kind of aggravating to play. Um,
So let
but
me
yeah, so
ask
he
you.
dwells in the upper domain. Yeah, go ahead. And it's
The
super
next
cool, but it's crazy. Yeah.
the next part is you thought it was important to include review scores from other publications. Why?
Yeah.
Why did you think so?
Ooh,
Like
let me
you
go to
mentioned
that part. Okay,
IGN. You mentioned
pull that part
IGN.
up.
See.
I'm gonna go down to it. I remember what it was.
Jeffrey Dunham of
Okay, I
IGN
got it. I
asked
got
if this is an
it. Yeah.
astonishing sequel or complete disappointment, and then answers himself, the truth lies somewhere in between,
Mhm.
etc., etc.
And it says, yeah, Patrick Gann. He cannot claim that this is one of the best JRPGs in recent years, but he can say it's certainly up there in the rankings. Gave it 89%, whatever that means, 7.8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. It just felt weird, and it felt like I played the game and I love Xenogears. It's right, it's a foot away from me right now. The hard copy. It's an awesome
Mm-hmm.
game. But like this game was frustrating. Oh, this scene that's up is super cool though. Margulis and Jin, by the way, if anyone wants to watch that, that's super cool. A wonderful, like I think it's where they fight, or maybe this is somewhere
It looks
before,
like
but
they're
it's a
fighting,
great
but it
part of
looks
the
like a
game.
good battle. But stay focused with the reviews.
But anyway, so the reviews, it was like someone says it has a lot of soul, and they're like 7 out of 10, and I'm like, this is so like real number domain shit, right? That's what it is. It's like complete like craziness. And so then I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna lead
Real
into the
number
last
domain.
stuff,
I
but
love
like
that saying. I want to start using that saying.
I
Real
was like, that
number
does sound cool.
domain.
Yeah, that's real. Well,
That's
if you're
because we
like,
had
this
that
is a 4 out of
conversation.
5.
We had that conversation about
Huh?
math or whatever, right? And like it just
Yeah,
makes sense that like if someone thinks math is like just something that exists, then this is the real number domain. There may
yeah.
be
I
something
mean, the
above
real
it,
number
but
domain
yeah,
is real. It's real, but it's like there's
yeah.
Udo you got to worry about, right? That's why
Mhm.
Albedo is so pissed. Anyway, so yeah, I thought like it's like they just played get this game really fast, and I think it's worse than that what they were saying. I think that's what gives me credibility, right, to anybody that watches this in the future. Like I love this game, I do. It's good. It's worth playing if you like Xeno Dash games. However, it's not a 7 out of 10. It's probably a 5 out of 10. It's a good 5 out of 10. It's almost a passing score. In high school nowadays, you got to get a 60 to pass. It's a great game. Most games are below that get like 8.5 to me. Most games, like if I had to give a score, they're like 30s. They're not good. This game's a good 50 or 55. And it's awesome. It's so much more awesome to what they say it is, but the quote unquote score, like if you want to play real number domain, it's less than that. So really I include that bit to criticize that kind of journalism.
Yeah. You then ask, are we even playing the same game? Were you playing the same game?
No, they weren't, dude. I don't think. Let me see. One of them said, okay, I love this one. Simon Parkin at Eurogamer criticized it for being a sequel by comparing it to starting a book in the middle. And then
That's a
I
weird
said in
way to do
parentheses, the strangest way to define the word sequel that I have ever read. Because, like, that's what a sequel is, right? Of the middle part, maybe. If it's a
it.
trilogy,
Yeah.
part two is literally, he's like, it feels like starting a book. Well, did you play the first game, Simon? Is what I wanted to say. Like, it's worse than the score you gave it, right? So, like, I'm not mad because of the score. I think you're wrong because you are not a good journalist. That was why I included that stuff. If I want to be hot, sorry, Simon. I know you got to make a living. You're nice. I love this game more than you do as well. That's why I get to say it. I bought the guide because capitalism convinced me to, but, like, I like the game more than you. It's worse than what you say, but you didn't play it as well as I did. I don't think.
I think the idea of like game journalists, like, I don't know the true. It's all semantics, but the definition of journalist, when I think of it, like the real number domain definition, which is a static, hard coded definition in the real number domain, is like somebody who's talking about shit that matters, maybe, or somebody that's going out in the field and discovering stuff, maybe interviewing people on site, learning about things. I don't think just sitting down and playing a game makes you a journalist. I think journalism is more involved than that, maybe, or maybe this is just a bullshit topic. But when I think of journalism, I think of somebody who's on their feet, doing something, talking to people, investigating real stuff. And video games are real, but I'm just sitting here playing games, and like I'm talking about my thoughts. Giving a score to a game, I don't know if you can be considered a journalist. Maybe that's just me being hard. But,
No, you're right. I think you're right. I think real journal. I would call what I do journalizing, right? I might write. Maybe there's a name for it. Like I don't know what they like a not an
you can
expose,
journal, like
but
you
there's
can make
different
journals,
names.
right? Like live journaling. When I was in high school, you had a website, live journal. You write about your day at school, your crush, or whatever. But that's not journalism.
Or
Right?
editorials. We write like editorials. I think like maybe I
Something.
don't know.
Yeah. We write. Yeah.
We
We
give
write.
opinions on issues, right? We write opinion pieces on issues, and like that's part of the newspaper. We just
It
don't
is.
write like the investigative journalism. We don't do
Yeah.
that.
You can see us. Okay. So you
Yeah,
said that Last Hero says we deal in the reels, which is cool.
yeah,
He wrote a lengthy critique, and I think he eventually gave the game 2 out of 5 stars or something like that. But it seemed like from your writing that you really respected Last Hero. Why did you respect this guy over the other legitimate publications that reviewed this game?
I'm gonna love this. Yeah, thank you for this question. Yeah,
Yeah.
this guy reminds me of like this is like he wrote what maybe I would have like written when I was 15, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he loves the series. I'm looking at my stuff now. He said, "You see, what the problem with Xenosaga 2's dungeon is that whoever made them had no concept of the thing we call reality." Right? Like what is he talking? Who is this? I said, who is the prophet who writes truths in the notably stunted style of an advanced seventh grade reading student? Yeah, he's definitely young. I think he describes a desert with oases every third mile, populated by Carmen Electra and Morgan Freeman. And this states, I don't know what that was. If you can imagine. Oh, he talks about that in his essay. That's what it was. If you can imagine this hypothetical and honestly absurd situation, then you have a great idea of what it's like to play Xenosaga 2. So yes, let me get back there. So I do remember that part. He was talking about I can't remember the example he brought up, but like that was so weird. Him talking about Carmen Electra and Morgan Freeman, like out in like in a
No,
desert or
that's great.
something.
That sounds way more advanced than a 13-year-old could write, to be honest.
Yeah, he
So.
might even be like a 20-year-old who's writing English as a secondary language, or like he just writes very like he only did a first draft. Maybe he wrote it really fast. Um, then you have a great idea of what it's like to play Xenosaga 2. I know you will question if your eyes deceive and your mind believes. I said he taunts us. Yeah, it just seemed like he really criticized a lot of it. He said, so as you sit there, a bag of Cheetos in one hand and a control in the other, you ask yourself, this is his words, was it worth it? Was all the pleasure worth all the pain? Right? So, like, he's thinking about this game pretty hard, this guy.
Yeah,
Xenosaga 2 Deals
he
in the
is.
Real was almost what I called this essay. I just wanted to call it that. It was just a little too silly for my
I like that
taste.
title.
But
I like
it's
when you add
awesome. I should have
deals in the
picked it.
reels instead of real, but in the
Yeah,
reels.
yeah, it
That's
should have
funny.
been. But his quote there was with the real.
Yeah,
But yeah, Deals in the Reals. And like, so that's a man that likes it, right? That's a man that played the whole game, that really thought about it, and then at the end was completely fine with giving it a 50%,
hmm
2.5 out of 5 stars. Like, if you, as the editor in chief of our publication, if you demanded me to give this game stars out of 5, I would also give it 2.5 out of 5. I said he loved the game the most, but he gave it the lowest score of all the reviews that I read.
he did.
He understood the power that it had to like take us somewhere weird, but then said he hated the trip, quote unquote, but then quote unquote probably will do it again. Right? That's the man I love. That's the absurd
Yeah,
hero. He's like, this game is a 50. I hated it, but I'm gonna play it again. Right?
yeah.
That's like that was so cool. That's the absurd man. That's the knight of faith. That is a really cool kid, right? A 17-year-old, 21-year-old guy just having fun, maybe English as a second language. So that's last hero for me. He's the first hero. He's super cool.
Yeah, he's one of
He's
the
like that
best.
guy on Mastodon that we love.
He's one of the best reviewers that I've seen, or
He's good.
video game writers that I've seen in my
Maybe I'll do
time.
that gimmick again, right? Was it good? Did you like that part of the essay? Like I
No,
don't
that's the
like
best
to
part of
like
the
lean
essay, in
on a
my
gimmick.
opinion.
Oh, thank you. Maybe I'll do it again. I loved when I found that. I was just kind of not knowing what to do with the essay, and I was like, when I read that, I was like,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna talk about it because it's really
Mhm.
funny and he's really charming. So let me talk about this for 1,000 words. So that
No, I
was
like that
where this
part.
came.
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
liked Last Hero. He's the best. He's better than both of
He's
us
cool.
combined.
Really.
He's better than all of us. And anybody watching this is 0 people. He's better than you as well.
And like no, I said he had no like all he did, he made an account, he put a Strider Hear You avatar, and then did no biography, nothing. Like just was like I'm
He's
Strider
this
and
game
I'm
deals in the
playing
fucking
Xenosaga 2.
reels. I hated it. I will
I'll
do it
play it
again.
again.
It sucked. Terrible game. But it did make me think, and when I'm done sitting on my couch with my Cheeto hands and my nasty controller, thinking,
What did
is
I
it
say? I
all worth
loved
it?
my
Yeah.
I said my quote was the man is weighing the sunk cost of barehanding a bag of puffed corn cheddar bastards against the subjective enjoyment of a multi-million-dollar computer game in an attempt to determine objective quality. I said the man is coming down the mountain, ladies and gentlemen, and he has come to teach us the overman. So I even tied him back to the Nietzschean theme of like, this is the dude to reject. This is the guy
Yeah.
that's figured it out, and we need to hate him and reject him. Like he's so cool.
This is a guy, he's transcended, which we'll get into.
He's
Um,
he's out with Udo, right? He's hanging out with Udo. He's just writing shit on the real number domain. Yeah, he's
yeah.
awesome.
So the next part is the conceptual part of the question. So I'll get into the conceptual. I'll just jump right into it. The first one is pseudo-conceptual. It's maybe borders on gameplay or real number domain. So we have, you said you have a hardcore need to buy the official Brandy Games strategy guide for Xenosaga 2. It's the first paragraph of the essay.
Yeah.
Why did you feel the need to purchase this Brandy Guides game?
The Brandy
Why?
guys. I'm
I'm drunk.
forever
Sorry,
the Brandy guys.
I'm
No,
drunk
me
now.
too. I'm getting.
Yeah.
I'm forever the Brandy guys. Right. So I want to explain because my writing sometimes I think it's I will defend it. I think it's good, but it's probably a little like I'm probably a tryhard. But it comes easily. Uh, but so I say it would be an understatement to say that the scan, because remember you and I were both using scans from like archive.org,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. We were. Yeah.
So I said if I said that the scan was subpar, that would be an understatement. So the very first picture is not the guide that I have, right? It does not have that sticker. It does not have that wearing. Literally, like the Brandy games from archive, it was like kind of slanted, so words were cut off just a little bit, and I think you can
Nice.
appreciate that. Like you're like more anal than I am, like about like screens being
Yeah.
cut off. So like it was like this, but sideways. This was only I think $15, so I did not spend $100 on it. It was
No,
fifteen
I love
bucks. I've
strategy
got a big
guides, to
boy
be honest.
job. Yeah, and I thought just to kind of have something to talk about as well, which it gave me the
Mhm.
first 1,000 words of this essay. Um, So I said, you can check for yourself. But since I really felt that way, I had to order a hard copy of the guide. I said, some of you might condemn me for needing it. And I said, it's not about need. Trust me, it's about hardcore desire. So really to explain that, one, that was me trying to kind of channel like some kind of like snarky, really cool voicing like for this. Like, oh man, I can like criticize the things I love and look how cool I am.
Yeah. You're
Um,
self-deprecating and you're cool. All your
yeah,
bullshit's
self
forgiven. Yeah.
yeah,
I do that all the
absolutely.
time.
So
I know how I feel.
but also, it's not to flex. It was $15. It takes up minimal room in a drawer that I already had shit in. Like, it literally, I'm not like being a hoarder. Like Xenosaga 3 guide was $100. I didn't buy that shit. Like, I
Oh
did not
damn,
buy it.
that's
The
expensive.
the scan online was completely
Damn.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, and I don't even think I used it actually. I used it very minimally. But this I did because I do like the strategy guides. I think they're cool. It's interesting. Like this one, I think was written by like a father and wife, or a father and wife. Yeah, that's horrible. Like a husband and
Who
wife.
was
I
that
think
written
like a
by? Who was
duo.
the girl? Because I was doing some deep dives on some strategy guides when I was getting into the scans. There's this one
Oh, it's not this
prolific.
one.
There's a very prolific girl who writes a lot of these strategy guides. Is her name on there? I guarantee you it's probably her.
Um, is it Laura Parkinson?
In fact,
But Laura Parkinson was. I'm gonna look her up.
Laura
You keep going.
Parkinson. Is it Parkinson?
Yeah, like the disease.
Yeah, Parkinson's disease.
She wrote
She
Lament of
did
Innocence, the official strategy guide.
Final Fantasy Origins official strategy guide. Laura Parkinson. All right, I've got her full discography or whatever pulled up. She did Dot Hack, X-Men Legend. She did Romancing Saga, the remake of the first one, which I've played the remake. I actually have an article, a very good article in my opinion, on that game on our website. Um, curiously enough, these strategy guide people don't get enough representation. They write a lot about games. They know more about games than we do. Like I bet you Laura
Dude,
Parkinson.
her Lament of Innocence guide
Yeah,
is
it's right here.
$891. Oh, you
Jeez,
got it? Yeah. My
that's so
headphones went out
much.
for a second a little bit. I think I pressed the wrong button.
That's so
That's
much.
probably
Yeah, and
just crazy.
she
Like,
did all
I'll
the
just get it on
Xenosaga
the
guides. I think according to this.
George involved at least. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so that's interesting. Laura
But cool.
Parkinson.
But yeah, so the guide, that's why I got the guide, just to look at it, just to be a kid again, hold it in my hands. Like the matte cover, I think I mentioned that. Like that has a feel. Um,
No, I love guides.
but
So
I
when I
didn't
was,
read it. That's
yeah,
cool.
you just look through it every now and then. Maybe look at the glossary to see some shit. Like when I was a kid in Charleston, South Carolina, I had an older friend. His name was Matt, who you've actually met. But when I was younger, like 12 or something, one of his friends gave me this. He was like, I don't want this box of guides anymore. And he gave me this big box of guides, which I should have kept this. But I did keep one of them. But this box of guides had so many like RPGs that he had played. And I looked through those guides.
Mhm.
And that was one of the reasons why I got into a lot of the games I got into. So one of the games was like Valkyrie Profile, which I was like, this game looks sick. When I looked at all the characters, I was like, these characters are awesome. And I wanted to play that game, and I played it because of the guide. Um,
Yeah,
and a few other games. Yeah, so I like strategy guys, to be honest. They're
super
bullshit, but
cool.
I like them. And the artwork and all
Yeah.
that. So on the
Some are better
strategy,
than others, right?
yeah, some are better than others. So on the strategy guide, you make mention of like there's two robots fighting on the bottom right hand corner of the
Mhm.
strategy guide, and the image is actually up on the screen right now. And one of the robots are slightly smaller than the head of the main character Shion. So my question to you is:
Yeah.
do you think this is significant because the games are more about big brains and egos than they are about the robots and the gameplay? Question mark.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. That's exactly what I probably failed to put into words, like with that
Is
part.
it okay?
But like yeah, because like literally on the cover of the guide, even on the full guide, like that's the only robots. They're barely there. The cover would be better if that robots. That's the only. It's not like if you zoomed out to the whole cover that there would be a bunch of robots. It's just that kind of vague image of robots with a circle. And that's it. That's all there is. Interestingly enough, though, in the very center there, That's the head of the Ouroboros, which we've both referenced, I think, a couple times in our writings, I believe, and that becomes representative of Wilhelm resetting like reality. I think we're about to go out though because we froze. At least on my on my.
Yeah, we are. I fucking
I
hate
can,
this. This is some dog shit. I just can't. I can't deal with
is
this.
it attributable to me in any way?
No, it's just
We're still
completely
up. We're
fucking
still up
random.
though. We're still up.
Alright. How did you know we were about to
I
go
just
out?
refused because it's freezing a little bit. It's like stuttering. Even now it's frozen again. So maybe that's me.
No, it's not you. I
You
can
could-
see. I can
Okay.
see. I can see the status on OBS, and it's red, and it's saying I'm dropping frames, and I don't know why. I'm wired in. Every time you say like we're going down, it corresponds with us dropping frames in my status. So it's not you. It's either my connection or Twitch or something. It's probably my connection, but I don't know.
Interesting enough, it does look like you are going. Although I don't know, maybe you're just being really still.
I
Like
am
sometimes
being
it looks
still.
like I'm moving and then you're not, but maybe you're just a still mother effer. Um. Anyways, I don't know. What's where we're gonna go? We're gonna roll with. We're gonna roll with it. We've already talked a lot about really good stuff. Um. So, what were we talking about? Because I lost it. The guide was cool. Oh, yeah, because obviously it's about mechs. I want it to be about mechs. I think mechs are cool, just like you do, just like most boys think that
Mm.
mechs are awesome. Um, but like it really shows how it transitioned into a real afterthought. Like in Xenogears, mechs are so ever present, and like you're doing them all the time. And when you're doing them, it feels so much different, like 'cause they're so much bigger than you are, and the combat and everything is so much different. Like mechs, they feel like he just really wanted to put mechs, like he really had to put mechs into the game, and was going to no matter what. Uh, it's
He was
not the
like, I've already
worst part of
committed
the
to
game.
mechs, so I need to put mechs somewhere in it. Put him in a little
He's
corner
like,
in, a, in 5 seconds of it. At the beginning of the
happens
game
in
where
the
you play as
game.
Chaos.
I mean, you do go to the mechs like a few times throughout the game, but it's still like, yeah, it's much. It feels relegated. It feels relegated to the side, and I think you put it into words really great. It's like the game's more about like the big ideas of the characters and the philosophy that's trying to represent, and the ideas of like what the universe really is. And I think it's super cool. Um, than it is about the mechs, and I think that's interesting about the cover. It's not even a criticism of the game. It's just interesting about the cover that it's like they knew when they did that.
Nice. So the next one is getting into the big conceptual ideas here. So we've got I don't even know how to pronounce this, but it says Jinswed von Gut und Bus. I think we should
Hmm.
explore that a little bit. Why is this Japanese video game addressing us in German? Question mark. So my question
Yeah,
is
I'm not gonna.
why?
Yeah, go
My
ahead.
question is why is this game addressing us in German? And do you think that could be a little off-putting to potential players?
Yeah, I think the game is off-putting to potential players. I'm fine with that part of it, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I'll try. I don't know anything about German, but the Jinsites von Guten Volks or whatever. I have no idea. Uh, but that translates to Beyond Good and Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably really cool, right? I do it. I didn't even do this. Wow, this is. I'm gonna pretend I did this intentionally, but anyone that watches this, like the Easter egg is that you'll know that I didn't. But in Xenosaga 3 essay, I put Japanese, like I took like cool little things that I said about like they relate to the
Yeah, and the
pictures and to the
image.
article,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
but they're in Japanese. And I did that just because I thought it was cool, right? I thought it was
Yep.
just cool to do on that basis alone. And so I think that's why he did that. But Nietzsche was also German. That's the original German title of the book, Beyond Good and Evil. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's addressing us in German.
All right. So, what is Beyond Good and Evil, and why? Why is it important to computer games, specifically Xenosaga 2?
So I love so a few things about me. I probably am a nihilist, even though I don't like labels and that kind of stuff. But like, and I probably
I
never would have
probably am
thought
too,
I would.
actually. That's why we talk
Yeah,
about it.
it's a cool way to be. And Nietzsche gets labeled a nihilist, and people say he isn't. And I think he is, and he isn't. I also think that I don't want to call Nietzsche like my favorite or say I'm really into him, but I just happen to have read a lot of him. He's very readable. He's super interesting. So anyway, Beyond Good and Evil. I'm gonna try to really quickly and easily unpack Beyond Good and Evil. His whole thing is value creation. Nietzsche looks around and he's like, man, the church tells people not to like bang hookers. Banging hookers is really fun. He died of syphilis. I think we talked about this on episode 1. Banging hookers is really fun. So they create good and evil to control you. So what you need to do as the overman is to understand that this matrix, and I think you're going to a matrix question in a minute, that you need to understand that this is all craziness, right? And so what you need to do is like create your own values. He's not saying good and evil doesn't exist. Good and evil is created by those that have power, by those that are thoughtful, not just like being mean and crushing people, but maybe having the wit of argument, right? So what his prescription for man, and he died an insane, lonely, childless man in the care of his older sister, maybe younger, who was taking advantage of him. He lived a messed up life, but he really, I think, believed this. He probably would have acknowledged that he was not the overman. He's like, if you're looking to Nietzsche, like he said, reject Zarathustra, right? Like reject me. I'm not the teacher. I'm not the overman. I'm an incel, like joke of a nihilist. And I'm not even really that. So what you need to do is create good and evil. It doesn't mean being a jackass. It means creating it. Don't let if you want to have sex with a hooker, like dude, he never says that anywhere. I don't think, but I think he had sex with hookers. I think that's how he got syphilis. I was going
Syphilis.
to say,
Yeah, that's how he died,
syphilis. Yeah.
supposedly, quote unquote.
Yeah, probably the insanity that came from the
Yep.
syphilis. So like because the girl that he was in a love triangle with his best friend like chose like neither of them, I think, right? And so like he was just banging whores until he died. Like he was a sad joke of a man with a big mustache, but he was super smart, and I think he realized that. I think he wanted to be like Wilhelm in the story. I think he kind of wanted to be like, fuck this existence, fuck this like matrices of like good and evil that mankind has created, and fuck Udu if that's real, right? Like even that's why he's like the antichrist. He's like, I'm the anti-Christian. I think, and not Christ. I think he liked Jesus. That's fine. But like the Christians that try to control people, I think he's like, yeah, like, yeah. Can you hear me still? I feel like the sound. Are my headphones still good?
I can hear you.
Okay, so it's good. But yeah, so I think that's him. Beyond Good and Evil. That book, he's like, look, make your own morals, but you got to have power of argument, power of money, power of like strength. Like you got to have power. That's why the first game's called The Will to Power. He was gonna write a book called Will to Power, and never. He died before, or he went insane before he could ever finish it. But yeah, so that's why. That's my interpretation, and that's yeah. I think for a guy living in the 1800s, I think that's a pretty smart kind of cosmic crazy interpretation. I like that Takahashi thought to bring in because most of episode 1 and most of Xenogears is mostly like Carl Jung, right? It's mostly Jungian like psychology. So to bring in Nietzsche, and I love the image of Wilhelm being free because Wilhelm resets the universe over and over again. I think Takahashi low key Easter egg like yeah that was him. That was one of the incarnations. I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Cool.
is that good with the question? I probably ranted a little. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of questions here. So, did Nietzsche really inspire the Matrix? I have literally never heard that before, other than in your article. But you say
Okay,
that
so
your girlfriend in high school stated that the bookkeeper at a library or a bookstore said that.
the store that so yeah, because I'll explain that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm drunk.
So
Go.
I do think that I just kind of figured out maybe a Nietzsche thing, but I've never heard that either. Like even after that,
Yeah.
like Rene Descartes, like the guy that talks about the brains and vats, like the I think therefore I am.
That
That's
thinks
kind of
more
Matrix like.
Matrix-like. Yeah.
That's Matrix. And or Baudrillard, right? Like literally, there's a Baudrillard book in one of the opening scenes of the first Matrix movie, and Baudrillard talks about like the conventions of society are basically like a simulation, right?
Right.
Like the idea of an economy is like literally like we're playing
It's all
Monopoly
human made. Yeah, we've made the board game, etc. Yeah.
We create the board game, and it's just a really big board game that we've made. And so I in the essay I jokingly call that bookstore employee like a tryhard. Um, but in talking to you, I think I can kind of see where you can make the argument that Nietzsche understood that the world of man, like taxes and appointments and even
Yeah.
roles like mother and father, right? Like they're all board game rules at scale, right? That
Yeah.
maybe life and death sometimes happens if you lose. You know,
Yeah. All
cool
right.
shit, man. It's cool shit in a game that's kind of boring to play. It's
So at one,
awesome. It's
yeah,
awesome.
at one point, I know I'm drunk because I actually clicked on the OBS preview image and tried to scroll the article from there. So
Base.
that's how I know I'm drunk. So let me actually scroll the article on the webpage. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
My next question was: you had spoiled the ending of Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey for all of our readers, which are zero. We have zero readers. But maybe like some crazy people on Mastodon. But you spoiled the ending of Space Odyssey for our readers. Why did you do that, and why did you think that was appropriate or relevant to Xenosaga Part 2?
So I think there's a lot of Kubrick influence on like probably Evangelion and probably through that on Takahashi. Um, so I'm not a big movie guy, but I think I'm becoming one.
Same.
Like I just need to watch better movies, right? Like better
Yeah.
movies, because like things like Seventh Seal are base. Like 2001 is base.
Mm,
Like
I
The
agree.
Hangover, I can laugh. Like Adam Sandler, I can laugh. But like
Yeah.
a lot of movies, I just don't want to watch. It's a waste of my time.
Like Grandma's
Um,
Boy. I remember like everybody I meet in real
yeah.
life that likes games, they're like, "Oh, I love
Mhm.
the movie Grandma's Boy." It's like, guys, we're on a completely different wavelength. I could never like that
Yeah.
movie. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
I don't
I'll
know.
be honest, I laugh at Grandma's Boy, but I'm not gonna watch it probably ever the rest of
Yeah.
my life. Like I saw
For
it twice.
entertainment, no. Like I'll see it
Um,
like maybe if it's on, like and somebody else is
if it's
watching
on
it,
and my son
and they
wants to
won't
watch
change
it and
it, and
laugh,
they won't
like
change it.
I'll
You
do
know?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But 2001, it's like the first half of the movie. Japanese, they must love this movie because, like, I think Hal, who is Hal Laboratories?
That's
That's Smash
Smash
Bros,
Bros.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I want to say that's sort of pseudo based off like Hal like 1000 or whatever from Space Odyssey. Um,
Probably
so
is.
the first half of the movie, it's an AI, um, a computer on the spaceship, and like
Yeah.
it's kind of becoming evil over time. Uh,
Danger. Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
about
I've seen it.
that. It opens with this black like monolith floating down to chimpanzees, and it teaches them the tools. Right? It teaches them how to like make hammers somehow. In the music for it in the movie, it's literally in real life. It's Friedrich Nietzsche's good friend that he severed ties with towards the end of his life. It's this composer, and I'm just too drunk to remember the name. If I was sober, I would know.
Wagner.
Um, it's Wagner, yeah, Wagner. It's Wagner,
Oh,
but
I
pronounced
call him
Wagner because
Wagner.
it's
Sorry,
German.
it's Wagner. You're
Yeah,
totally right. I'm just
but
drunk. Yeah.
it's Wagner. But yeah,
Flight of the
Wagner's.
Valkyries.
It's called Dust, but it's not Flight of Valkyries. It's Dust Spake Zarathustra because they were friends.
Oh,
So he
okay.
made a song based off it, but it's the same guy that does
Yeah.
Flight of the Valkyries. So
Yeah.
you are smart. You know your shit. So yeah, Wagner. Like so that is how I'm bringing. I thought that was one of the more genius parts of the essay, and I'm glad you thought to bring that up because like yeah, the movie echoes in a lot of ways because it's about like man maybe like moving on to something else, right? Because the games talk about realians, right? Like proto human beings. It talks about cyborgs and androids, and it talks about the role of religion and where religion comes from. Um, so spoiling the ending is like, yeah, at the end it's this giant human baby that's floating in space against the Earth, I
It's a
guess.
giant baby Arth.
Um, and it's so crazy and it's weird and it's a beautiful movie made in the fucking 60s with
Yeah.
like these big slow scenes and like the modern audience are too ADD to appreciate it. And I don't care if it's pretentious. Bergman is awesome. I'm going to talk about more Bergman in future essays. I want to get more into Kubrick for sure because I think America has to have more cinema to offer. But also, you've seen Kurosawa. I haven't. I need to get into Kurosawa. And there's another one. There's the Russian that I think Bobby liked. And forgive the viewers, I'm not going to expand on that name, but that's a personal friend of ours. but the Russian, I think, Tarkovsky. Like these movies are cool. I think they're doing what I like in video games and books. So
You know,
that's good with the question, right? Did that help?
no, that's great. I have seen Space Odyssey. It's been a really long time, and Space Odyssey was never as memorable to me as Stanley Kubrick's other work, which is Clockwork Orange, which is based on a book that
Oh,
I
you
read in
like
high
Clockwork
school.
more? Okay, yeah.
I do like Clockwork Orange, and I realize Clockwork Orange is kind of like memey or hot topicy, but I do like Clockwork Orange, and I don't think now is the time to get into it. But I think it's a good movie and it's a good book too. Explores some good ideas. So next, um, why do you think the NBA wouldn't allow athletes to take performance enhancing drugs? Why wouldn't the league want us to transcend our limits?
I don't know. It's wrapped up in this question, right? Like when transgender stuff comes up, and I'm not going to talk about this a lot because I don't want to be political, but like people talk about sports a lot, which is weird, right? Like they're talking about like transgender people, like if they exist or whatever the deal is. I support it for the record, but like I don't understand a lot. I'm a big stupid head about it. But like it's funny that people that are against it, I think, that are like all about like what about sports, right? Sports for some reason, like humanity takes very seriously, and it's like you can't take drugs. Like you can work
Did
out
we
and do all these
drop?
exercises. No, we didn't drop yet. You were slow, like you were kind of a little out the last time, but I could understand you. We're not frozen on stream right now, so it looks okay.
Sorry to
Can
interrupt
you
you.
hear me?
It says
No,
it's
you're
in
good.
red. Okay, yeah,
Um,
keep going. Sorry,
it got slow for a second. Your last speech, like it was choppy, but I
Oof.
could understand what you're asking.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, so anyway, we care about sports for some reason, and currently, I'll tell the readers, the zero readers we have about my own life. I've recently started exercising a little bit, because I want to keep up with my son, and I was feeling like dirt, and I've been doing it for like 8 weeks, and I've gotten like really strong and really fast, and so. I was telling the kids about this, and I was like, just joking. And the kids, I'm not going to explain that to the readers. But I was like, I want to dunk a basketball. That's like a goal of mine. It'll probably never happen, but I'm just joking around with it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people I told this to was like, well, you got to be able to like jump on a desk, like with both feet, like softly, like 3 feet off the air, like bare minimum, like you have to be able to do that out the gate. And I was like,
True.
I could probably do that. I was like, I could probably do that. And like one of them was like, you're gonna fall and you're gonna die. Guess what, my friend? I did it like 5 times in a row, and like several of the other people watching like would not refuse. They're like,
That's
I could
awesome.
never do that. I'm not bragging. You notice about me, I'm naturally very, very skinny and light.
Yep.
So I probably just have one. I will probably never dunk a basketball. I am gonna try for the next couple of months. And I am gonna keep. I do your kind of exercise, right? I've been doing this body weight, just some push up. I took that inspiration from you, and my son was wearing me out. So anyway, we care about sports, and I did want to inject my dunk story because I do want to try to like dunk a basketball. But anyway,
Well, that's
I
one
don't
thing
know
that a lot
why.
of people don't. That's a lot. To segue a little bit, it's one thing
Yeah, no,
that
just go
people.
ahead. Yeah,
It's one thing that people in our demographic, especially the gamer demographic, they don't understand, or they think they're above it or whatever. They think their brains are so big they don't need to do it. But um, to quote the late great or soon to be late great Stephen Patrick Morrissey is does the body rule the mind or the mind rule the body? I don't know. The
yeah,
question is if you work out at least a little bit once a day, you're gonna probably be in a little bit better mood than
yeah.
you would have been if you hadn't, and your body will thank you for it a little bit. You may not realize it like immediately, but I mean, everything just works better if you're actually active with your
Yeah.
body. I mean, we live in these
Dude, I think
we
yeah.
live in these
Yeah.
vessels, right? And people
Yeah.
they just don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize that. They just think their mind's disconnected from the vessel. It's not. Like your mind is part of the vessel, and you need to keep your vessel at least remotely in shape on some level to
Yeah.
maintain an equilibrium. And if you don't do that, then you're just it's just not going to be
Yeah.
good for you.
You fucked up. I think I guess there's a quote you'll probably like, and yet you inspired me. I mean, I've tried to exercise multiple times in my life. I think this time it is sticking. Because I just have because Thorny, like my son, I would like bend down to pick him up, and like my back hurt. Like, I would groan
Mm-hmm.
every time, and I'm like, I'm not that old. And now I don't. Like my feet were starting to hurt walking around, and I'm so fast and crazy now. And I've only been doing it like 6 weeks. I got to really try to make it a habit. I think it's starting to cement. But US Fighter, I do the same kind of stuff. Some jumping jacks, some push-ups. I've been trying to get crazy with some weird squats, but like,
You do your own thing. It doesn't take that. You don't have to like
super
dedicate
cool.
your whole life to it. Just like
No, it's 30
do
minutes
some
a day.
shit.
It's an hour
Yeah,
while I'm watching
exactly.
my son. My son's coloring, and I want to be right there with him, and I can do like 30 or 40 push-ups, like
Yeah,
10 or 20
exactly.
at a time, right?
Hmm.
Like with my son, we're having fun. I color a little bit. I do some crunches. Like I'm gonna do like 100 crunches a day. It's awesome. I feel better. I think faster.
Yeah.
And Socrates, I'll end this, or I'll end my part on this subject with this.
Mhm.
Socrates said he worked out. He was a wrestler. So was Plato. Socrates said it would be a shame for like a person to get old not knowing what the body can do, what the
Mhm.
body is capable of. We all have different bodies. I'm hoping mine can dunk a basketball in my 30s. Probably not. Maybe I can hang on to rim. I used to be able to get really close to touching the rim when I didn't work out. So maybe
Yeah.
that'd be really cool to jump and touch a rim. I like basketball. It's the only sport I can pretend to enjoy like watching. Like I
Yeah.
don't really watch it, but I know the rules and I can have fun watching it. And it's
I
cool.
like.
Like it's really
Yeah.
fun to do the form. Yeah. But so yeah,
I
that's
like
what.
basketball. I like baseball too. But those are the ones I like watching. For some reason, I don't like watching football at
Yeah,
all.
me either.
Um,
Yeah, it's too
but I like.
slow and weird and bulky.
There's too much going on. I think in basketball, it's like I don't know, but like in baseball, it's kind of
I
cool.
just
You
love the
see.
showman. It's the big shot from far away or the slam
Yeah.
dunk, right? It's that or the quick pass, or the weird dribble. Um,
I think it's
Playing
eerie.
basketball
Yeah.
feels fun.
It's
Yeah.
easier to get
So you go ahead.
heroes. It's either easier to like pinpoint heroes, and I think that's why I like it better. It's easier to pinpoint heroes in baseball or basketball because they're hitting home runs every time. That's a hero.
Right.
It's the main character of the video game. It's like he's a home
Yeah.
run hitter. He's just always great.
Yeah.
He's fun to
Yeah.
watch. Basketball guy who can get a score from halfway across the freaking you know the map or
Yeah.
whatever. That's a hero,
The
right?
Matt. Yeah.
Sorry,
That's
okay.
a hero.
But
Michael Jordan. He's on the shoes.
yeah, exactly. He's on the shoes, and yeah, the guy who does Papa John's. But I don't think we. I think we got off track. So I think, I think, I think why. So you have a main point in here that I really like. It's that Nietzsche said that we should transcend our limits or try to,
Yes.
and you tie that into performance enhancing drugs. Why? Why wouldn't the NBA allow performance enhancing drugs? One,
I
is
don't
it
know. I don't
because
know why.
would everybody have to do it, and then everybody would have to be on the same? They want it. I know why, because they want to have a fair playing field. But if you just legalize performance enhancing drugs and everybody's on them, and they all have a fair playing field, and they're all doing better, they're all like at their peak performance. So is it because it's unnatural? Is it because it's
There's a lot of reasons.
satanic?
I think
I
one.
don't know why.
I'll try to
It's
give good
unhealthy.
reasons, right?
Yeah.
I'll give the unhealthy is probably the big one, right? Like
Mm.
if you start to get into experimental drugs, like I bet cocaine is probably awesome to like play basketball on. I bet you feel so explosive. I bet it's great, especially if you like have enough water. I bet you're gonna be or Adderall, right? You're gonna be jacked up. You're
Yep.
gonna be dunking. You're gonna be having fun. But like you also might have a heart attack at 30 years old,
True. Yeah, you
right?
might die.
So right. So I think if the NBA, so if those drugs work, if you want those paychecks, you're gonna have to take those drugs. And if those drugs are like maybe lethal, and they are, I think, um, especially because you're gonna have to use them in larger and larger amounts to compete because it's a competitive sport.
Yep. Hmm.
You're gonna have a lot of dead athletes. And you're going to get a lot of negative press because of that. You're going to have guys that are dunking on 20-foot rims, right? You're going to have just straight up like the Monstars from Space Jam, right? You're going to have these 9-foot, like giant
Base.
cyclopses, like just floating through the air magically, but they're going to be dead at 29 of heart attacks. And they're going to have like these really weird, like regarded babies. So that's why. That's the good reason why that Nietzsche may be wrong with drug use. I don't know if
I
you would
don't
be a
know if you're
fan of
gonna
drug
get
use.
around the censor by saying regarded instead of the other word, but You can keep trying.
Maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't say that then.
No, keep trying.
Just,
I want to see if that gets
I
passed.
mean, I mean, highly regarded in their field, right?
Yeah,
Is
I
what
know
I
what you
mean.
mean.
Highly
I know what you
regarded
mean. Yeah,
folks.
absolutely. I
Um,
mean, I know
but
I
yeah,
know the answer to the question. It's like, why don't we allow performance enhancing drugs? It's because they're dangerous. They will kill people. You have to keep doing them, et cetera, et
and
cetera.
people push the limit, right? Like, there's probably a very like okay usage, like steroids to get like a certain amount. But since people want to be the best, to get the best paycheck, to get the most viewers,
Mm-hmm.
the teams would hire the most roided up like monstars like possible,
Yeah.
and they would die at 29, and it would just be a really sad thing to watch.
They just throw away. They're just a meat husk that they throw away, and they get another roided up
Yeah.
dude to take their place that dies at
And
30
I live
as
by this.
well.
I want to dunk a basketball, but I will not take steroids. I could probably figure out how to find some on the internet or something,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not. I might do some protein powder if I want to gain some weight, but actually, I think my light weight is going to be beneficial. So, like, yeah, I'm not going to take drugs to accomplish my goal. I want to live longer. I think
Yeah,
that's a cool goal,
true.
and feel good while I live longer.
Yeah,
That's why I
feeling
quit
good is the
smoking,
best
right?
part. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, lungs feel good. Like I can run. Like I run like around sometimes. When I get somewhere fast, I jog or I run, and I feel really good. It's awesome. I haven't smoked in like probably almost a year, like 7, 8, 9 months. It's great.
Yeah, it's not cool to be like, oh, I try to run and I can run 2 seconds. That's not cool. It's just not. You want to be able to run a mile, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
just powerful. I'm a human. I can do what I want to do, and that's the whole thing of fitness or whatever. It's not something that you need to be jacked up or Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's just you
No,
just need to take care of yourself a little bit and just make sure you can do
I'm not
basic shit.
lifting weights. I'm doing push-ups. I'm doing
Yeah.
jumping jacks.
Hmm.
I got a little. Sarah has a. My wife has a little 5 pound little weight. Sometimes I mess with that, but that's nothing. I'm not trying to like be Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't want to be. I just want to be able to run around and jump around and feel good and have fun and not like groan because I got to pick my son up.
And most
Like
most
that's
people
pretty
think
much it.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is on steroids anyway. So my last question
Yeah.
is: does Xenosaga actually do a good job translating all these grand philosophical concepts that it draws from into computer games, or is it more just transposing these cool concepts onto computer games and not really capturing their essence properly or doing them justice? Is my question.
You know what? In talking about it, and I'm watching it right now. I love the
Mhm.
gameplay video we're watching. How confusing the battle system is. With all these weird symbols that I didn't even understand till the end. Like, because you can do square, triangle, you do combos. It's very reminiscent of Gears. Well, not very, but a little bit. Uh, I don't know. It's probably bad. Probably bad. I'm
You
a
can
guy,
imagine.
and so the audience like I've studied philosophy professionally. I study things like writing professionally. Writing is a part of my job. I would have to say if it's presenting it to like a 15-year-old audience, yeah, it's horrible at what it's trying to do. For me, for someone that likes, I feel good that it's not for everybody. Maybe that's pretension, right? I feel good that it's a game that's not for the average Joe. It's a
Mhm.
game that only people like me and Last Hero will play, maybe consider to play again. So yeah, I do think he does a good job because he's not the teacher. He gave me something to critique. He gave me a field on which to practice my analysis, right? Like I don't want to analyze like sometimes actually reading Nietzsche because I don't have time, and Nietzsche is kind of difficult to read because he's old and wrote a long time ago. So maybe I get to understand Nietzsche more by playing a computer game. For me, 10 out of 10 game, 10 out of 10. It's horrible, it's awful, but it's 10 out of 10.
True. It's the best
For
and
most
worst game
people,
ever made. Yeah.
but it's 5 out of 5 for maybe the average like smart video game player. But for the average computer game player, it's probably like a 1 or a 2. It's gonna be boring and like they're not gonna beat it, and it's just slow
Yeah.
and clunky.
I'll tell you right now.
Um,
I probably to play this game. I'd probably need to be on multiple levels of Nietzsche brain and very into turn-based JRPGs. It'd have to be in a very specific mindset to appreciate this game, I think. So my last question to you, and these are all off the cuff questions before we end, is like, let's say that Takahashi or whatever his name is, big brain boy, he had the opportunity to present his grand trilogy, or at least the first two games, because we've covered the first two games so far, to Frederick Nietzsche himself, and had Nietzsche play the games. What do you think Nietzsche's response would be to playing the games?
Dude, I wish I didn't cancel my Mid Journey subscription because I just want to like try to fucking chat GPT Nietzsche playing computer games image. I think
Not
Nietzsche would
any
be very
computer game,
angry.
these computer games that are so heavily influenced by
God,
him.
that's so crazy. I think obviously, I don't think he quite misunderstands it, right? Like I do think Takahashi does not completely. I don't. I
Keep
think.
going. I gotta go to the bathroom. I can hear you though. Keep going though.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that Takahashi. I do think that I understand Nietzsche more than Takahashi. That's probably really bold. I really probably shouldn't say that, but I think I do. Um, when Nietzsche talks about the eternal recurrence, because Nietzsche says that in the Gay Science, one of the best little books of his that is kind of fun to read, a lot of aphorisms. In the Gay Science, Nietzsche says, imagine that your life, the way you've lived it, exactly, you're going to live it forever, over and over again. Absolutely zero consciousness of the repetition, but everything. If
I've
it's
had
really
that thought
horrible,
before, actually. You know, like maybe life is like kind of a reincarnation thing, but you just keep doing it.
yeah.
Just keeps happening over and
But
over
the
again. You're not
same,
real.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That would be a nightmare
yeah.
almost.
Well, see, this is, but
But
he
you wouldn't
doesn't.
know.
That's
You
the
wouldn't
thing
know it was
that,
a nightmare, right?
but that's what Takahashi misunderstands. I think is that when Nietzsche says that, Nietzsche does not give a fuck whether that is the case or not. He does not care if that actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
What Nietzsche cares about is like if that were the case, and it's probably the best thing. So anyone that watches this, watch this part. If it is the case that the life you're living right now, and I know it's just me and you, so you, my best friend in the world,
Mm-hmm.
if the life you're living, if you knew that you're going to repeat it over and over, I'm not really asking you just to answer this, but maybe asking you just to
I know what
consider
you're
it.
gonna ask.
What would you change? What
Right.
would you change, right? Because sometimes we just want to play it safe,
I would
right?
change
Because
so
we want
much.
to like, but like, yeah, if we thought that we would have to do this over and over and over again, what would we therefore then be liberated to do? So Nietzsche does not give a fuck whether that actually happens, but he thinks regardless of that
He
fact,
likes the question.
that's
Yeah.
how. Yeah, and that's how you should live your life. Nietzsche ultimately is an ethical philosopher. Nietzsche said he's not trying to tell you really this is what the physics is or this is how the universe actually is, but you're a consciousness in a body,
Mm-hmm.
so this is how you should live. Fuck the church if you want to. Fuck everything else. Screw society if you want to. Live life because, like, if you find out that oh, you live 40 years like not having sex because you're gonna be like a priest. Well, if you found out that life is just that forever, over and over again, would you want to do that over and over again? And if not, and that goes for the bad people too, right? Like if you're a bad person, you want to murder and rape. Do you want it? Do you want that to be your eternity, like murder and rape and like being a horrible person? Most people would say no,
Well, it depends
right?
on how it
Even
makes you
like
feel, doesn't it?
it does, and like, and some people are ready for that question,
The,
some
the,
are
the the
not.
problem with that question is like the problem with that question is let's say you present it to somebody at their deathbed like a murderess. A murderess. I don't know what that is. Sorry, I'm drunk. Just to
Yeah.
preface this, but
No, it's
like
okay.
let's say a rapist who has raped people all their life and has never faced any repercussion other than they like to rape, and it felt good, and I liked doing it. And I never got caught. I never got put in jail. I never had any real repercussions.
Yeah,
In that case, that psychopath would probably be like, "Well, I'm just gonna do it again and just keep raping."
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, and I think this is the case in reality, that most people that are that awful end up having a part of their life that they would not want to ultimately repeat, right?
Right.
Like, hopefully, like, the rapist gets caught and gets the shit beat out of him, right? And his teeth knocked
Right.
out. And, like, gets raped himself and, like, put in jail. Like, hopefully that happens. Yeah, that's a great valid flaw in Nietzsche's prescription, right? Because there probably exists, like, the raping pedophile that never had a bad consequence that will be completely fine being the same way over and over and over again.
Or there
right?
could exist a world where, like an alternate universe, where the ethics, the system of morality is opposite from ours, and it's just kill or be killed, and people are killing each other all the time, and then the survival of the fittest, the person who kills the most people and is the strongest, is on top, and he's on the top of a big pile of bodies. And if you ask him that question, he'll be like, well, what do you mean? I did great. I killed all these people. I'm the strongest. I've murdered all these people. I don't care. You know, I'm the strongest dude. You know, this is great. You know, I don't know.
And Nietzsche's okay with that. Actually, that's a great point. That's an awesome point. Because the will to power, right? Like, that guy, Nietzsche can say that that guy sucks. I can say that that guy sucks. You can say that that guy sucks. But that guy, if he was able to make that life for himself, wow.
Yeah,
wow. That guy.
I mean, we live in a world where that's not possible right now, but
it's really not that possible. Some have, but even Hitler, right? Let's take Hitler. Hitler really did some grand, amazing things. Bad, terrible, horrible fucking things. Hitler is Satan himself. But Hitler managed to do some incredible, like, unbelievable things. I just had to, right? Because I don't want to be taken out of context.
Right.
Obviously, I hate Hitler, and I think the whole
I know what you're saying. To round up millions of people and be able to kill them, it's an incredible feat.
It's incredible.
You shouldn't even be able to get to that point, to be honest.
But even Hitler, I think at the end of his life, when he had the gun in his mouth, I bet he wouldn't want to do that life again.
You don't think?
And maybe he would. I don't think. No, he died, like, horribly in a bunker, right? And his idea of Germany lasted all of, like, never, right? His Third Reich ended when he shot himself in the head.
Yeah, when he died. Yeah.
Immediately. He's a failure. He's a fucking failure. So even Hitler, who actually did some incredible things in his ideology, who actually willed his power, and he's German, and he probably read Nietzsche, even Hitler, like, probably doesn't want to do his life.
You're worried about your coworker thinking what you're saying, but when you say Hitler did some incredible things, you don't want to say that. You want to say Hitler did some... No, I agree with you. Hitler did incredible things.
No, incredible literally means unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah. He did unbelievable things.
Because credo in Latin means I believe.
Nowadays, the connotation nowadays is incredible means good. Yeah.
It's not good, though.
It's not
and
good.
Let me say explicitly, Hitler is bad. I hate Hitler. Like, Hitler is the worst of the worst. And I don't believe you could do that shit. But, like, yeah, I know, like, it sucks to have to say this, but Hitler, the things he did, he shouldn't have been able to do. He did them, but even Hitler, because that's the point, right, is that maybe a bad person got away with it, so they're okay with Nietzsche's prescription. I think Hitler would do it differently next time, I think, if he could.
You think so?
Yeah, because I bet being a fucking loser and being, like, basically, like, synonymous with Satan and having to shoot yourself in the head, I think I don't want to do that. I don't want to ever do that. But I don't want to be... Hitler is a goddamn loser. I don't want to be a loser. I don't want to be a loser like Hitler.
I agree.
He's a
loser. Yeah.
And if he doesn't agree with that, he's dumb and he's inaccurate. So, fuck Hitler. Hitler sucks. Hitler's cringe.
But you said he was incredible a few minutes. I'm just kidding. So, anyways.
Literal example, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Next question. If you had to
he's crazy.
If you had to use one word to explain Xenosaga 2 to our viewers, what would it be?
One word?
One word.
Eminence. Eminence is another word for greatness, I think, right? Like, if I press define eminence, I don't know. Eminence is a Deleuzian term. I think it's something he redefines in his philosophy.
Or recognized superiority, especially within a particular sphere or profession.
Yeah. So is Xenosaga a good game, right? That's why I titled it that, right? Infinite promise, because it promises a lot. If you are into philosophy, even casually, like me or you, or if you are really good at it or whatever, Is this going to be good? Is it imminent in its field? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it is. Um, because it gives me something to talk about. One of the titles of one of the chapters, was like something to talk about. Is it worth talking about? Yeah. I'm looking at a scene right now on the stream. It's Margulis again, which we've not even talked about, and he's a very deep character. Margulis is about to duel Jin again. Margulis is fucking awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, Eminence, man. Like the game, it's got a lot of potential. Like infinite potential, infinite space, infinite promise. The game offers a lot. There's a lot of cool games
I
that
like
offer a
that
lot. There's a lot
actually.
of cool essays. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I like that. Infinite. You say this game is not good, and that's what I'm getting from your quote unquote good. But it has a lot of infinite potential. I don't know
And I like it.
if you actually read my Infinite Space article. I don't know if you actually read it, but that's pretty much the basis of this article too. And we'll have another video on this eventually sometime.
Yeah,
But
we will.
the idea is like the whole point of this article is that the idea of the game, the idea that the game tries to emulate is better than the game itself. That's the whole purpose of this whole article. That's what this tries to get
Yeah.
at. And you have to be into the idea and you have to be into the, the headspace of the idea to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
And if you're not, this game is garbage. This game
Yeah.
sucks. That's the whole
It's not
purpose of this
fun.
article. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's kind of similar to what you're saying about it has infinite potential or
And it's a lot like
infinite
Infinite Space. I
imminence.
did read the article. So yeah, it is. It's a lot. Like you got infinite places that you go to, but it's just mobs and movies, right? In my
Yeah.
version. But in your
Mhm.
version, it was different shit. But it's like, oh yeah, it's infinite, but it's the same goddamn shit. It's 5
Yeah.
things. It's 10 things.
Hmm.
Like it's not really. Um yeah, I think there's a lot of similarity there. I do think conceptually that Takahashi brings a lot of concepts. Like he brought the right, like I think he has a valid interpretation of the source material. I think I understand it more than him, but I could be wrong. But his interpretation was interesting for me to quote unquote read or to play, right? I think Xenosaga is basically an analysis of Carl Jung. It's an analysis of Friedrich Nietzsche a little bit, and it's an analysis of like what video gamers want and what we like to play, what a JRPG should be. Like they're awesome games. If you're like me or like you, like even you, like I doubt you'll ever play these, but I think you at least think they're not like utter garbage. Like you understand they're a 5 out of 10 that's worth talking about. That's exactly what these
Mm.
games are. But yeah,
Are you still watching the stream?
I am. I'm watching it. I love it's a battle. It's Margulis and Jin again. Um, the battles are cool. I like the way it did it. I like there's Takahashi there. He's going up and down. Um, it's cool. It is super cool. It's just weird and like not the most fun to play sometimes. I have more fun like reading, like you can go into like the glossary. I don't know what it's called, but the glossary, you can go into it and you can read about Shakespeare and you can read about Carl Jung. Like he talks about some of these concepts. Look how big his brain is.
Yeah, his brain's really
But
big.
but Final Fantasy 16 is probably a more fun game to play. It's more fun.
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, when you hit the
But I will
button,
probably
stuff
play
happens.
Xenosaga. Right, yeah, hit buttons. You don't have to sit through these like weird cutscenes, hardly any music. Like, oh, I've got a poster. That's the other thing. I'm gonna put this on screen. I got a 3 foot, 4 foot. Holy cow! I got a 4 foot poster, a 5 foot. Holy
Let me see
shit!
that.
I
Damn,
got.
dude.
Is
Is
that
that
on
from
there?
the
I got a.
is that
That's from the
Shion?
guy, brother. That what is it? It's Shion. It's a nice ass
Shion?
Shion poster. $15, dude. Like a poster on Amazon is $20. So I got the guide and a 5 foot poster for $15 on eBay. That's why I bought
That's
the
really
guide.
nice. Yeah, I like guides.
That's okay. It takes up no space. Like I hate that it's capitalism, but it's just half an inch of space. It's in a drawer that I already had, and that was an awesome poster. So It's a cool game. It's more fun though, and I say this I think in the Xenosaga 3 article, and I'll say this to you and anyone watching in the future. If this sounds cool, like the Carl Jung and the Nietzsche, just read Nietzsche. That's better. If you like self punishment, if you like going through the games to experiencing them once, like do it. Fine, that's okay. But there are better games to play. Final Fantasy X is better to play. Final Fantasy 16 is better to play. Any Final Fantasy game is probably better to play than Xenosaga 2. It's going to be a lot more fun. But
The
that's
thing
where we
about
are.
the thing about Xenosaga is that the ideas of the game and the philosophy are in your face and they take center stage. Whereas other games that I personally like better, like we've done a video on Tactical Ogre, right?
Hmm.
That game has a lot of ideas and things that it wants you to think about, but it doesn't. It's not in your face. It makes you think about them just by playing them. And Xenosaga doesn't. I don't think Xenosaga is like you will think about this shit, and this is what the game is about,
Yeah.
and there's
It
no
forces it.
question. Yeah, and like you will think about it, and like there's things that link to it all over the place. So if you're into that and you want a game that parallels, all the philosophical shit that you're into, then I think Xenosaga is a good game for any game player to
Yeah.
play. Um,
Well,
gamer.
and well, I was gonna say, I think at the very beginning of the stream, when we first got cut off, I think the very first time,
Mm-hmm.
I have been playing Metal Gear recently. My next article, it's finished, but I was gonna finish the
Base.
images. It's for Metal Gear. I'm trying to get into Metal Gear Solid.
How
It's
many
cool.
words is
What's
that
cool about
article?
it's I think it was 5K. I think with the second draft, it got it to 7. So
Oh,
I'm
that's not
working
bad at
on
all.
it. And
That's good. I prefer
that's a
shorter
couple
stuff.
K. Well,
Yeah.
normally I average 8 to 10, so it's about 1,000 to 2,000 less. So I wanted to be 5,000, but the draft was 5,000. I
Yeah.
think now. My headphones are out. Hold on.
I can still hear you.
Oh, it's because the phone is picking up. Is that okay? Do you want me to just talk without the headphones on
For
to
now, and
finish?
then we can probably end now. I mean, we're way over time.
That's fine. Yeah, we're about to be. So, with Metal Gear, it's very philosophical as well. Without fucking like, it's fun to play, right? It's a fun game to play, and it's mostly gameplay. And what I remember of MGS4 and MGS2 is like, even though the cutscenes were really long, I was having fun playing the game as well.
Yeah.
Xenosaga fails because playing the game sucks, but like the cutscenes are good and I can kind of understand what they're going for. Like I think Metal Gear, even though the philosophy is not as highbrow, I don't think Kojima's is as smart as Takahashi, but Kojima makes better games. So that's what I think we're at the execution on the Xenosaga.
Yeah. That's good. That's good insight and a good ending point, I think. Um,
We'll talk about it when we get there. Metal Gear 1 is coming soon. I think I got the PS3, so I'll probably do Metal Gear Solid next. I think I'm gonna skip Metal Gear 2 for now. I'll do Metal
really?
Gear Solid on the Metroid, and then do the Metal Gear Collection on the PS3. I think. Um,
I think you should play
and then
Metal Gear 2.
you think on the MSX?
Yeah, I do.
I should. I don't like it the hour that I've played of it. I don't like it as much as Metal Gear 1,
You're not
but
gonna like every game you have to play, buddy.
I know you're right. You're right, and it's probably better, and it's more Metal Gear than Metal Gear 1. Like you crouch to like go behind things. Like it's definitely more stealth than the first one. I love Metal Gear 1 though. That's one of my favorite games now. Actually, it's probably my top 10. It's a really awesome video game, computer game. Uh, I never even talked about so much shit in this essay. I'm looking at fucking the dude from.
Yeah, how did this
Uh,
relate? What was this about?
I have no fucking clue. Oh, it was because like he's looking at the news, and then the news becomes in his house, and that's like the first cutscene. And I loved. Okay, I'll mention this. I want to point this out. The first chapter was called Introduction or Codename
Infinite
something,
Promise.
and then chapter 5 was called Infinite Promise Codename Introduction. Go to chapter like whichever one. There's a chapter. I think it's chapter 3 or 5. Go up a little
This
bit.
article is way too fucking long. 3.
Dude, chapter 5.
I'm trying.
Stop. Down.
Oh, This is changes coding.
Yeah.
This is the Bowie article.
So 4. It's 4 or 6. Go to 4. Anyway, the point was the chapters that I talk about the intro to the game, I call Infinite Promise Codename Introduction.
Oh, here it
I'm
is. Yeah,
talking
Infinite Promise Codename Introduction.
But
4.
the intro to the article, I call Introduction Codename Infinite Promise.
Yes.
That was like that's probably really pretentious, but I thought that was super cool.
This is also prophetic right here, where you say opening Starfield. As you know, Bethesda has just released a game called Starfield.
Was it really? And that's probably I probably knew that, and I didn't mean that when I
You
wrote
know
it. But that's probably where it came.
That had been announced for fucking years. Of this. Is this in the game? This cutscene right here with this girl, the
No, that. So that's a reference to I forget the director's name, but it's the 1996 Romeo and Juliet. And so
okay.
and when I wrote this, I
Romeo
was
plus Juliet.
What's up?
Romeo plus Juliet is what it's called.
Yeah, Romeo plus Juliet. So it's Romeo plus Juliet, 1996, and so I was teaching the play at the time. So I was just bringing that in. So in the play, it's like the chorus says it, like at the beginning. They talk about in fair Verona, we lay our stage. They talk about the two houses, like the Capulets and the Montagues. But in the movie, in Romeo plus Juliet, that woman says it, right? She says the whole verbatim, Shakespeare's words. That's why I like that movie a lot.
I do too, yeah. I think it's a good movie.
But then it goes from the TV to like the actual like thing that's going on, right? And that's just how the opening scene of Xenosaga 2 goes. Like it looks like you're watching the violence during the Milton conflict,
But you're in the
and then
violence.
yeah, and then Kanan's watching it on TV, right? Very
Gotcha.
similar to the way it does. So that's what I was doing in my real life at the time. I was teaching Romeo and Juliet, and it kind of paralleled like a little bit the first part.
Cool. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I think this has been
like
good.
This
is gonna be.
This was a good one.
This is a good one, but it's gonna be a fucking nightmare for me to edit this because of all the internet connection issues.
That's 2 or 3. It's okay.
Ugh. All right. Well, I think it's been good. I don't have any other questions.
I'm gonna finish my wine. I'm gonna work on some Metal Gear images before I pass out, and I think I'm going to go try to dunk a basketball tomorrow while my son's at his grandparents' house.
You should try to dunk your son into the goal, like pick him up, launch him. Launch him into the goal.
I've touched the rim before. I've touched the rim when I was younger.